the focus today is on the issue of GIS applications within the monitoring and evaluation sector. And we'll be able to look at a number of things. So I think there was a bit of introduction by Steve on who we are, where we are based and what we do. So as an e-enhancement, we based in Nairobi, Kenya, and we've been dealing with courses in different sectors, and one of them, or the leading one, being GIS, which is the focus of today. And we'll also have a training afterwards. So basically, we deal in general ICT programs, and we also training on issues like such as software development. We do consultancies also for various organizations who probably do not have the capacity for this. So I want to get straight into the issue because I know sometimes presentations can be an issue. So when we talk of monitoring and evaluation, we are looking at various or two parts. The first one is basically the monitoring, and the second one is the evaluation bit. So when we talk of monitoring, we are basically looking at time, or what we call temporal changes. And we do continuous assessment, if it's things like data collection for new or emerging issues, if it's new analysis, if it's new reviews, the whole of that process is basically I'm trying to monitor what has been put in place and seeing how they are performing. If we need to get new data sets to continue monitoring, that is done. And then, of course, there's the evaluation bit where by we determine, we can call it the level of achievement, or basically situations that can come up within a monitoring process, which by we require us to either come up with new workflow, or new programs, or new workflows that we need to implement for the success of what has been set. And of course, out there, I know you've dealt with the various projects, and there are various elements that we look at. And these elements, we shall talk about later in the presentation. And of course, we know in every project, the issues of you must have goals, you must have a plan. For example, how much time we need to use for a certain project. We have to plan on issues like skills, labor availability, things like resources. And of course, the goals that you have, these resources and whatever you plan for must be able or must enable you to achieve the goals. So the entire process, I'm not a domain expert in monitoring and evaluation on its own per se, but now I think it's something that I got interested in some time ago. And I'm also still trying to do more research into it, trying to understand it and guide, because during consultancies, you are advising organizations or you are giving your input to various projects that's ongoing out there. So we are talking about GIS in monitoring and evaluation. We've seen what monitoring and evaluation is. So the third question we need to ask ourselves is basically what is GIS? And GIS in a nutshell, we can say it's basically a system. Sorry, I have a typo there. It should be geographic. So GIS stands for Geographic Information System. And basically, the difference between a GIS and other systems out there, it's basically the issue of location, or what we usually call spatial element. So in GIS, we deal a lot with what we are calling here spatially referenced data or information. And this is the data that has location attributes. In the training, we usually dive into details onto what we term by attributes, what it entails, and why it's important in every GIS work. So looking at this, we are able to know, for example, an airport is being constructed in Nairobi, Kenya. Yeah, so that location on the ground cannot share the coordinates, or what we call the location information, with another place on this globe. Okay, so we are dealing with a project which is basically about construction, but it's happening somewhere on the ground, which is uniquely identified on the ground. Okay, and GIS usually has 5 sectors or 5 components, and these are the simple ones. This kind of hardware, computers, mobile devices, and all that. And then we have what we call the software, which is basically what enables you to analyze the data, run the workflows, and all that. And then we have what we call the data. So this data can be in many formats. The data can be in either hard copy, soft copy. It's either digital or not digital. There are ways to convert between manual and digital systems. So we handle that a lot during the training. And then, of course, we have the 4th component, which is us, yeah, basically the users, yeah, me and you, who will be using the system. And the 4 components are all tied by what we call a workflow. So if you wanted to achieve something, you wanted to analyze something, you'll basically have a certain process that you need to implement. And this is what we call workflows, okay? Then we have, of course, in the currently, we have a lot of, like 10 years ago, GIS, you mentioned GIS somewhere, and people are like, what are you saying? What does it entail? What is it? But today we've seen quite a lot of advancements and also uptake within the industry. And of course, we can see changes, of course, good changes that are coming into the GIS platforms. And it has basically been an improvement because there exist so many tools today that if you wanted to perform a certain analysis or to carry out a certain project, you do it much faster with the existing GIS tools. On the image on the right here, you can see the or the relationship between various components coming into the GIS. So the globe here represents the GIS, and you can see all these options. In the training, we usually go into details into the sources of data and sources of information for the GIS projects, and you're able to explore what you can use in cases where you find your data is in a certain format, or you need to convert it from one format to another, something of the sort. Okay, and today, basically, GIS has really grown. Coming from, I started GIS stuff way back in 2011, and I've seen quite a huge difference, and it's becoming like a norm within almost all sectors out there. And of course, we shall see some of the things that you can relate with that you'll probably want to do on your own. We're going to applications of GIS. So basically, when it comes to application, it's impossible to list all the applications of GIS in even 2 or 5 slides. But what I've done here, the list here is very general. But basically, I know either maybe there's one of you who is in mining, another one is maybe natural resources, another person probably is in health, another in transportation. All these sectors are currently leveraging GIS, and there are some sectors that have higher uptake than others. We've seen the other day during COVID-19 responses, dashboards were created to visualize the spread of COVID-19, and we were able to see the spread of the disease based on geographic areas. And indeed, governments and institutions were able to come up with measures to curb or even to reduce the spread of this dangerous virus. So we are talking about a technology or a technology that is being used by almost all sectors out there. And the bottom line is the aspect of analysis, data presentation, data publishing, data sharing, and all that. Okay, so all these you can see here are basically some of the sectors that have high uptake of GIS. Today, if you have your vehicle and you wanted to know where it is in real time, you can actually track it. governments, like now for the case of COVID-19, are using this technology a lot to try and govern its people. The health, the COVID-19 case, we have education, we have natural resources. How much forest do we have in the country? Is it reducing or is it increasing? Do we need to plant more trees as citizens? In business, yeah, you want to monitor your business in real time. So where are the most people residing? Where is the middle class located? Where can we actually put up a new supermarket or a new mall? So these are some of the questions that we can ask ourselves, but then we can use GIS to solve them. Okay. The visualization you can see here, this is an image of the United States. I've not put any label because I wanted to remain as confused as I can. But of course, by seeing this, you already have dots in your mind. There's someone who's thinking maybe this is COVID-19 spread cases. Another person is thinking probably this is population. Another person probably is thinking maybe it's population by age or by gender. Yeah. Another person probably is thinking it's the number of dogs in the world. So there are so many ways in which you can use GIS to actually perform your analysis. And the limitation of GIS is only, the applications of GIS are limited to your imagination. So whatever you do, or whichever case you're presented with, you can think on how you can use GIS to tackle the issue that you have. And of course, adding to the other bits, you can see the circles. There are some other sectors where GIS is still being applied a lot. For example, agriculture. Nowadays, guys are flying a lot of drones, yeah, trying to spray large fields of vegetated land. We have marketing. You need to know where you have most 15 to 24 years old, where you have most of the old people, where you have most of the working class, and things like that. So in general, when it comes to the application of GIS, we cannot limit it to a certain sector or a certain application, because as I said, everyone is in a different sector and the application is only limited to imagination, okay? So for questions, I think you can preserve questions for after the session, so that we can handle them together. All right, so why are we talking about GIS, or why are we talking about the uses or the benefits of GIS? So we have quite a number, so just listed a few of them here. And in most cases, you'll find whatever works for you might not work for another person. Or in some cases, you might find the project you're working with, you have a different workflow with another person who's probably dealing with a similar project. So you can give two people a project on probably demographics monitoring, but then they use different workflows. The output might be the same or slightly different, but they're trying to tackle the same problem. But now the difference is in the execution, which is basically the person working on that project. So the benefits of GIS are many, and the first one is, of course, the issue of visualization, or basically the display. Whatever map I've shown you for the US there, if I was to give you that data in Excel, and those are over 1,000 shapes, scrolling 1,000 records can be a lot of work. By the time you get to the 990th record, you've forgotten what the value of the first record was. Okay. But now, using GIS, the visualization aspect, you are able to come up with defined symbology. We usually call it symbology, or patterns that you can actually look at the entire data set at once, and you're able to understand or classify or even be able to know where these specific shape or area lies. The second one is the issue of automation. So automation, when you think of going to the field and collecting data, for example, you are sent to the field to go and collect data about the household, maybe education. in various households. You are given 2,000 households and you have a team of 20 people. I don't know how long that one can take you. So imagine going to the field, you collect the data probably in 2-3 weeks. Then you come to the field, start analyzing the data for another 2-3 weeks. It's already 3 months trying to collect data of 2,000 households. It's a lot of time and a lot of paperwork. Imagine all that paperwork. Someone might burn it by mistake, or someone might even lose the papers. But now with GIS, you automate the process such that everyone, you have devices, you just go to the house, collect the data. That data is sent directly to the systems. Maps are created, dashboards are created, and the person in the office, within 2-3 weeks, you already have finished the project and you're able to present the results. So there's a lot of benefits when it comes to that bit. And in one of the courses we usually train, which is basically mobile GIS, you're able to see these kind of benefits where you're able to run questionnaires through a number of people or a number of groups. You're able to get your resources or your outputs out fast. There's the analytical bit of GIS, which is very powerful. Today, if I gave you 100,000 records of probably households, and you're supposed to calculate maybe the average of, for example, population in each household, or things to do with maybe income per month, or the expected output if it's a farm. Sometimes you require quality or even powerful analytical tools to do this, and GIS has proven to be one of these tools, whereby you are able to run through complex situations or algorithms, and you're able to give your results in a minute or even 5 minutes, depending on the task. So there's a lot of, there's so many tools, plugins, add-ons that have come that have been developed over time, and you're able to use these tools to basically in your field and actualize the project activity that you needed it done. And of course, the most important bit of it is decision making. So you're able to go through various aspects of a project or of an implementation. You're able to analyze, you're able to see the data, you're able to visualize it. And from there, you can now make a decision. Maybe from the maps that you get, you're able to say, okay, this area, we need maybe to add more power lines. Or this area, we need to supply food to these guys because it's very dry. Or maybe this area, we need to send some security teams. Maybe the security bit has, there's a lot of insecurity. So there are so many benefits of GIS, and the graphic on the right basically summarizes it all. And you can see everything is the issue of increase. Yeah. So you're increasing quality, you're reducing the risk, because imagine you've sent 100 people to the field with papers for a whole one month. So when they are returning these questionnaires, you need probably to counter check. You have a checklist. Have you submitted 20 papers of ABCD? Yeah, it's a lot of work. And you can imagine if someone told you that they can't find the paper they collected data on for a whole week, what will you do? You have to go back to the field. So imagine the cost, the time, and also the efficiency that you require. So you can use GIS for such. And of course, we usually look at the 4 aspects when we are talking about benefits of GIS. And of course, you're trying to reduce your finances, and then you're trying to improve the quality of your outputs, and you're making your processes shorter. Yeah, so things that took 6 months, you can take a week. Yeah, or in terms of the quality of analysis that you have, you could get better with GIS. And of course, all that you are looking at the customer who should be happy, because they need also to pay you. So the more they are satisfied, the better for your business. Okay. All right. So there's linking these 2 components. So it's basically the GIS and the monitoring and evaluation bit. We've already seen from the previous slides, we've already seen some of the applications that probably you deal with at your workplace, or you deal with that even you've had a friend talking to you about something, and you've seen whatever you do in your workplace, how this technology can actually help you, or this skill set. And when we link them to when you link them together, you are able to come up with an output that is basically of improved quality and an output that targets the goal that you require. So for example, let's assume you are dealing with something like distributing or the humanitarian sector, for example. You're in charge of maybe supply of foodstuff to the hunger-stricken areas. So you first of all need to plan and know where are these people located? How many are they? Okay. How can we reach them? Are there roads? Do we need planes? Yeah. Can we access them through maybe road? Is it safe? Yeah. What geographic area are we talking about? How long do we need to cover the ground? So in that case, you're trying to look at so many aspects. There's the logistics, there's the demographics aspect of it, there's the management aspect of it. And then you can imagine that you're dealing with everything on paper, or probably someone is just reporting to you, giving you a lot of reports. So you're supposed to start this thing on Monday, but then you have about 7 reports you're supposed to read and make a decision out of it. So sometimes it can be tedious, and that's where this thing of GIS in M&A is becoming popular, because with your systems, you could just sit down, analyze your data very fast, come up with maps, give your teams the maps they need to use, where they need to target fast, where they need to go, and they're basically able to implement what they're supposed to do. There are quite a number of issues, but the element where GIS is coming in is the aspect that whatever you are dealing with at your workplace has a spatial element. By spatial element, I mean it's located somewhere on the ground. If you're dealing with households, that house is located somewhere. If you're dealing with management of rivers, yeah, those rivers are located somewhere. So you can travel to that place and be there in real time. So you're able to see the output. Someone is telling you maybe the river is drying up. You need to write a report that it has reduced its levels. So you can go there and see on your own. If you can't go there, there's technologies like this GIS where you can actually get on your computer. You're able to visit that place on the map. You can zoom in real time. You see how it looks like. Yeah, is it drying up? Is it having a lot of water? You can actually see that from the comfort of your office or even at your home. Okay, so there are many aspects in which GIS is coming into the M&A sector and solving different problems that exist. Of course, you know M&E is wide, and almost every sector has M&E. So if you're in mining, you have your own M&E. If you're in water management, you have your own M&E. If you're in security, there's M&E. So M&E is very broad, but the aspect that you need to capture is how GIS integrates with the M&E processes. In our training, we do not train what M&E is. We usually train you how the processes that can happen or that exist within the M&E sector, how you can use GIS to tackle some of the problems. So this is the connect I want you to look at, or I want you to think of. We are not domain experts in M&E, so we cannot train you on how M&E, those processes and all that. But now linking these two, we can actually talk the same language, okay? Basically, we can say GIS has changed the working environment. And even from what we had with COVID-19, we've seen a lot of changes in the work area. So you need to evaluate, or you need to monitor construction. You cannot visit the construction site because maybe of the travel restrictions. So what do? Yeah? You can come up with some tools within GIS that you are able to actually monitor from above. You can either fly a drone or you can use what we call satellite imagery. And you are able to plan, see what is ongoing. These guys are telling you that they're on second floor, but on your evaluation, you saw that the site has not even started. So you can actually make decisions from wherever you are with using various technologies that exist out there. Okay. So this is a sample M&E workflow. I won't go into much details, but I wanted you to see what is here under the M&E tools and modules. Okay. So we have all these issues of inventory, data from household. We usually call it baseline data. We have what we call KPIs, or basically indicators in the different sectors. So what are we trying to monitor? Yeah, we need to have factors that we are looking into. And then we have underlying data sets such as demographics. We need to understand that. And if you look at this, you are able to see that GIS is the one at the top here, as a priority tool and module. And you can see from here, the rest follow. And whatever follows, it's basically, except this, the other two are still GIS. Either it's the data, or it's the workflow, or it's something that covers a certain geographical area. Yeah. And then, of course, these are storage tools or databases that where you store the data. And of course, in M&E, whenever you store your data or whenever you have your data, at the end of the day, if you have your tools and your storage platforms and systems, at the end of the day, the most important thing is the outputs that you get. Are you able to get quality outputs from what you are trying to do? Yeah, that is the most important question that you need to ask yourself. How can you evaluate whether your outputs are quality? There are a number of measures which you can put in place to ensure that whatever you've achieved or whatever you've gotten from your processes is actually correct and can inform a decision that is supposed to be made in somewhere, either maybe by government or by your supervisor or by you. Okay. This presentation will be shared, so you can look into this into details. Then we have what we call types of GIS, so basically the ecosystems. And I know probably you've used one of these. If you've been using things like Google Maps, Uber, things like which other application? There's Uber, there's Bolt, there's InDriver, all these platforms. Okay, those ones are in my country. I don't know whether in your country they are present, but I think they are global. So you've seen that they are using a lot of maps, a lot of location information, and this is the growth in which the industry has gotten into. So we have these three ecosystems, which basically is the desktop. The first which is desktop, and here this is the oldest. And this is where most of the processes or analytical bits of GIS have been happening. And then from there, we move to the web. So today, you can access your data online. You can work from one computer at home and access it in your office computer when you get to the office. So there's a lot of cloud or web technologies that have come in place, enabling the web GIS part. It has really grown. Today, one of the top major GIS applications have gone to the web. There's basically ArcGIS and QGIS. You can find them on the web. You can run them. So it means you do not even need to own a computer, or you do not even need to own data. You can just log into the office computer, go online, access the data, access the application, perform your analysis, get your outputs, and then go. Okay. So these are some of the possibilities that we're having with GIS today. And of course, the mobile bit of it, Those guys who are dealing with a lot of questionnaires in the field, survey work and all that, you can now use mobile devices to collect your data, send it in real time, evaluate it in real time, and also carry out the analysis in real time. So there's a lot of possibilities within these three ecosystems. The ecosystems usually feed into each other. So for example, you could have the desktop where you do your analysis, then you upload the data to the web, because there's, of course, there's some things on the web that you can't find on the desktop that you can't find on the web. And then if you're going from your office, you're going to the field, you can now load everything to mobile and continue your work there, collect the data and all that. Okay, so we're just talking of GIS. This slide is just to inform you on some of the platforms that exist out there. Basically, you cannot deal with all of them. So you'll have to choose what we call a stack. So probably you're a fan of Supermap, or you're a fan of QGIS. On the web, you're a fan of maybe CartoDB. On mobile, you're a fan of maybe GeoDK. So it's you to choose which platforms you want to use. But basically, from the three ecosystems, we still have a number of software that exist within those ecosystems. These ones have ordered the first and the second are the most common in the industry. For those people dealing with a lot of analytical bits like water delineation methods, geology and all that, most of them, you'll find them either on GRASS or ILWIS or Saga. So it depends with what you want. Of course, you can learn a number here. For example, you can learn, we usually train on ArcGIS, QGIS, if need be, but you also understand GRASS GIS, Saga GIS, and UDIC. So if you find someone, or you can find someone who maybe deals with this, it's something that I can still do. On the web here, we deal with almost everything here. So we are able to show you how to carry out a certain process on a certain platform and all that. And of course, you have the mobile. These are one exciting platform. Every day we are having updates and new platforms coming on board. So there are so many of them nowadays. I just picked out the popular ones, but the list has a lot more than this. Okay. So just to cap what we've been talking about, if I was to give an example of a situation or a project that you want to carry out in an ideal situation, when talking of monitoring and evaluation, of course, you cannot monitor something that is not existing. So there's the three parts here, which is basically the planning, monitoring, and the evaluation. So in a case where I gave an example of distributing foodstuff to hunger-stricken areas. As you can see, there's some questions that you need to ask yourselves, and you need these answers. There's the first part of planning, which you need to ask yourself questions before you even go to the field. Yeah. How long do you want to conduct these projects? How many people are you dealing with? What age group? Where are they located? How can we get there? Yeah. Do we need to organize a plane tickets? Do we need to organize vehicles? Yeah. Do we need security if it's an insecure place? Do we need things like backups of maybe power? Is there power in that location? How many probably amenities? Do we need to only give food and leave out water, or do we need to give both food and water? Yeah, so there are many questions that you can ask yourself during the planning phase. And then the answers to these questions is what we now lead your teams to the field out there. Then you get to the next part, which is basically monitoring. So you've sent a team of 10 people. You need to know whether they got to the locations or their destinations. You need to know how long they took. You need to know how many days they'll be there. Yeah, what are the resources required? How many days? How much do we need to give these guys in the field? And all that. Yeah, how many bags of maize have been distributed? So there's a lot of logistics involved in such processes. And of course, in every institution, if we are executing such a project, you need to have a very strong monitoring systems, or basically structures in place, because here you can lose a lot of money and you can lose a lot of time, and you can also fail to achieve your goals, which basically becomes a disaster for you. And then, of course, the last bit is evaluation. We gave out 1 million bags of maize. We gave out maybe 20,000 liters of water. Yeah. How long can these guys survive on this food stuff? Yeah. Has it solved the issues of war? Yeah. Has it solved the issues of children going to school? Are they getting food at school? So there are so many questions or things that you can actually evaluate. What was the impact of this process? Yeah, guys got food for the next 3 or 5 or 6 months. Before the rains come, and they could plant now their full stuff and continue their livelihood. So there are a lot of things that you can look into this. And basically, GIS, more so in the planning phase, very, very, very helpful. And also the monitoring and the evaluation bit. So it cuts across because all these questions you're asking yourself, it's something that you can answer using GIS, and you can see the results, and you can actually present those results somewhere. For example, the map on the left is a map that was done by one of our trainees 2 weeks ago in the training. It was from Myanmar. And we had this training, and they were able to come up with, there are people who are very, very strong when it comes to monitoring and evaluation. But the capabilities of GIS, they were able to actually enjoy a lot of making maps and a lot of deciding what we call the symbology, the colors and all that, the legend, a map that can communicate to the people that you're trying to share these maps with. And this is what we look forward to in terms of the impact. We also have our own impact as an institution. Yeah, we train you. We also monitor and evaluate. Did you understand? Was the course helpful to you? Were you able to implement what you wanted in your organization? And things like that. Okay, so these are just some sample outputs in one of our consultancies that we had. And basically, when you tell someone that we've lost maybe 20% of our forests in the last 5 years, they'll ask you, where did you get that information, or how do you know? Yeah. So you start explaining to them how you achieved the results, but most of them probably they are not tech savvy, or they are not like the population itself is not literate. Sometimes it can be a lot very difficult to explain such techniques. And this is one of the most applied parts of GIS, what we usually call change detection. And basically change detection is, in simple terms, it's monitoring. Yeah, you're trying to monitor 2015, how was it, 2016, 17, 19, 19? Did we have more forests, or did the forest reduce? Was the vegetation cover, did we have rains in that month? Was it very dry? Yeah, which year? What's the change? Yeah, for example, you can see this is the difference between these two. You get this. So, as for example, if it's a government, you can actually evaluate and see these guys here. They've lost a lot of vegetation cover. Yeah, but these guys here, they've actually improved. Maybe they planted some trees. If that is what happened here, you now make it a policy. Oh, these guys now should plant trees. And actually, within the next 4 years, 5 years, they should have the red part showing that now there's a lot of cover, what we call vegetation cover. So these are just some examples or some applications of what guys are doing with GIS out there. And you can imagine how trying to quantify in terms of numbers. You don't go to a meeting and tell someone, we had a change of, we have reducing, for the last 5 years, we've been reducing our forest. They'll ask you how much, what percentage? You tell them, I'll confirm. You go take a week, come back, you tell them, actually those forests faster. They ask you by how many, by what margin. So sometimes when you are required to get actual or specific results, GIS becomes your friend, because it can actually tell you that the change was maybe 8%. So in the meeting, you'll be saying, in the last 5 years, we've lost about 8% of our forest. And that is better compared to when you're telling someone we've actually lost some forest. Okay. So even in the issues of communication, it's very important to also look at the aspects in which you're communicating with, because you might be communicating to someone who is not an expert, and they'll be more confused, because they cannot really understand what you're trying to mean. So your output must also be output that can communicate, or outputs that can be understood by the various teams that are out there in your organization, or even in your country. Yeah. All right. So I'm not a fan of long presentations, but to wrap it up, we have quite a number of things that we need to consider. And we've seen what GIS can do, or what it has been doing, and the benefits of it, the components that are there, and how some of the examples on how you can link it with your M&E sector to actually solve issues for you. So there are a number of conclusions, but the bottom line is that GIS has been helpful, and it's actually helping organizations out there. Guys are making a lot of progress when it comes of analysis, data collection, conducting surveys out there in the fields. Things are getting better, and as technology grows, we also need to grow with the technology, because at the end of the day, we need results, and those results are the reason as to why we are working. Okay. So with that part, I think I need to end the discussion there. Not the discussion, but the presentation, and open the floor for discussions.